The rain hammered the tin roof like accusations unspoken for decades. Each drop a reminder that secrets don't dissolve in water. They fester. I knelt beside the hospital bed, my mother's hand limp in mine, her breath shallow echoes of the life she'd guarded so fiercely. And then in that final gasp she turned not to me but to Vivian, her best friend of 40 years, whispering words that shattered the room. Finally. Free to hold you. I froze, the sterile beep of the monitor slicing through the downpour outside like a judge's gavel. Mom's eyes, those faded blue pools that had always held stories she never told, fluttered shut as her fingers tightened around Vivian's, a grip that spoke of lifetimes compressed into seconds. Vivian, elegant even in her unraveling, leaned closer, her silver-streaked hair falling like a veil over their clasped hands, and let out a sob that wasn't for show. It was the kind that comes from bones weary of pretense. The nurse bustled in, murmuring about time of death, but I barely heard her. All I could see was the way Vivian's thumb traced a slow circle on Mom's knuckles, a gesture too intimate, too knowing for mere friendship. Monroe, Georgia wasn't built for moments like this. Our town clung to the edges of the Chattahoochee River like kudzu to an old oak, stubborn, overgrown with the weight of what folks called Southern grace, but what I knew as polite suffocation. We'd lived in the clapboard house on Elm Street since I was a girl, the one with the sagging porch where Mom would sip sweet tea and watch the fireflies dance, her laughter light but her gaze always drifting toward the horizon. Dad had passed 5 years back from a heart attack that hit him mid-sermon, Reverend Hayes, pillar of the First Baptist Church, preaching fire and brimstone to keep the devil at bay, even as his own demons gnawed from within. Mom, Elara Hayes, had been the quiet anchor. Schoolteacher, pie baker, the woman who organized the annual Harvest Festival with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. Vivian Locke had been her shadow since high school, the two of them inseparable like magnolias and moonlight. Vivian came from the other side of town, the right side, where the Locks owned half the cotton fields and the bank that foreclosed on dreams. She was the one with the debutante curls and the laugh that turned heads at cotillions, while Mom scrubbed floors to afford her prom dress. They'd met in algebra class, or so the story went, two girls dreaming of escape in a town that chained you with whispers. After graduation, Vivian went to Emory on her family's dime, came back with a degree in literature and a job editing the local paper. Mom married Dad, had me, and settled into the role of dutiful wife. But Vivian never married. Too picky, folks said with winks. Waiting for Prince Charming. They'd tease at church potlucks. I used to wonder why she lived alone in that Grand Victorian on Oak Lane. Her evenings filled with books and records spinning Ella Fitzgerald into the night. Now, as the coroner's van idled outside St. Mary's Hospital, its lights cutting fog like accusations, I couldn't shake the image of those hands. Vivian pulled away slowly, her face a mask of composure cracking at the edges, and placed Mom's hand back in mine. "She loved you more than anything, Aubrey," she said, her voice steady but threaded with something raw, like silk fraying under pressure. I nodded, numb, because what else do you do when the world tilts? We drove back to the house in silence, the wipers slapping rhythm like a metronome counting regrets. Monroe slept under its veil of Spanish moss, oblivious to the fracture in the Hayes foundation. The next morning, the town descended like locusts on a ripe field. Casseroles piled on the kitchen counter, Mrs. Hargrove's squash, baked with enough butter to grease a guilty conscience, pecan pies from the ladies' auxiliary, sticky sweet as their condolences. "Elara was a saint," Reverend Tillman intoned at the viewing, his voice booming over the pews of First Baptist. I stood there in my black dress, the one I'd worn to Dad's funeral, feeling like a relic myself. Aubrey Hayes, 28 and adrift, graphic designer in Atlanta who'd fled back to Monroe when the call came. My life there was sketches and coffee runs, anonymous in a city that didn't care about your last name. Here every face held a memory. Tommy Jenkins, who'd kissed me behind the bleachers and now sold insurance. Lila Mae, my old rival for homecoming queen, her belly swollen with her third child, eyes pitying as she squeezed my arm. Vivian arrived late, slipping into the back row like smoke. She wore a simple navy suit, pearls at her throat like armor, and carried a single white lily, the kind Mom planted every spring along the fence line. Our eyes met across the aisle, and for a split second I saw it. A flicker of terror in her gaze mirrored in my own. What had Mom said? What hold did those words have over us now? After the service, as the crowd milled in the fellowship hall, Vivian approached, her steps measured. "We should talk," she murmured. Close enough that I caught the faint scent of lavender, Mom's favorite. I wanted to pull away, to demand answers, but the weight of eyes on us pinned me in place. "Not here," I whispered back. "Tonight. The house." The afternoon blurred into preparations, sorting Mom's clothes, the ones that still smelled of her rosewater soap, calling cousins in Savannah who'd send regrets and checks. By dusk the house emptied, leaving echoes in the halls. I sat on the living room rug, surrounded by photo albums I'd dragged from the attic, yellowed edges chronicling a life in sepia tones. Mom and Vivian at 16, arms linked at the county fair, grins wide as the Ferris wheel behind them. Them at 25, toasting with champagne flutes on a porch swing. Dad's arm awkwardly around Mom's waist. Vivian's handwriting in the margins, "To Alara, my North Star. Always guiding, never dimming." My chest tightened. North Star. What did that even mean in a town where stars were just pinpricks in a judgmental sky? The knock came at 8, sharp as a held breath. Vivian stood on the porch, umbrella dripping, a bottle of bourbon in hand. The good stuff, Maker's Mark, the kind Mom hid for medicinal purposes. We settled in the kitchen, the one place that felt safe, with its scarred oak table and the window overlooking the backyard where lightning bugs still flickered like hesitant confessions. She poured 2 glasses, the amber liquid catching the lamplight. "Your mother," Vivian began, then stopped, swirling her drink. "She was the bravest woman I ever knew." Brave. The word hung there heavy. I leaned forward, the hook of curiosity lodged deep. "What did she say to you at the end?" Vivian's eyes met mine, steady now, the terror replaced by resolve. "She said she was sorry for all the years we lost." "Lost to what?" The question burned, but she pressed on, voice dropping to a confessional hush. "Aubrey, your mother and I. We were more than friends from the start. But Monroe doesn't forgive that kind of love." The words landed like stones in still water, rippling out. More than friends. My mind reeled, piecing fragments. The late-night calls after Dad's death, Vivian's car idling in the drive at dawn, the way Mom's face lit up when Vivian's name came up, a spark in the embers. "You mean you loved her?" It wasn't a question. Vivian nodded, tears carving clean paths down her cheeks. "And she loved me. But she chose this life for you, for the town, for the peace that came with pretending." The bourbon soured on my tongue. Pretending. The word echoed Dad's sermons on sin, the Bible studies where he'd rail against unnatural affections, his voice thundering while Mom sat silent, hands folded in her lap. Had she been dying inside all those years? I thought of her smiles at PTA meetings, her quiet pride in my Atlanta apartment, the way she'd hug me goodbye with a fierceness that bordered on desperation. "Why tell me now?" I asked, voice cracking. Vivian reached across the table, her hand hovering before retreating. "Because she wanted you to know the truth. Before it's buried with her." Buried. Like the love they'd shared in stolen glances and coded letters. She slid an envelope from her purse, yellowed and sealed with wax long cracked. "Read it when you're ready. It's from 1963. The year we almost ran away." I took it, fingers trembling, the paper warm as if it still held their heat. That night, alone in Mom's bed, sheets crisp with hospital starch, I broke the seal under the bedside lamp. Alara's script looping and precise. "Dearest Viv, if we go together. No more hiding in church basements and backroad drives. Meet me at the old mill at midnight. Your E." The mill on the river's edge, where teenagers carved initials into beams and dreamed of elsewhere. They hadn't gone. Someone had pulled them back. Society's invisible chains, forged in whispers and expectations. I folded the letter, heart pounding, and stared at the ceiling cracks like maps to alternate lives. What else had Mom hidden? And why, in her last breath, had she chosen Vivian's hand over mine? The days blurred into funeral arrangements, the town's machinery grinding on. I fielded calls from the church ladies, their voices syrupy with concern. Alara was so devoted to Harlan. A model wife. Devoted. The word twisted like kudzu now. I wandered the house, touching relics. Mom's Bible, underlined in passages about forgiveness. Her jewelry box, where a locket held not Dad's photo, but a faded snapshot of Vivian laughing in a sundress, wind-tousled by some long-ago breeze. Guilt gnawed at me for not seeing, for living my own half-truths in Atlanta. Dating men who felt like placeholders while my sketches filled with curves and shadows that spoke of unspoken yearnings. Vivian kept her distance, sending texts. Space if you need it. Answers when you're ready. But the pull was there, magnetic as the river's current. On the third night I drove to her house unannounced, the Victorian looming like a sentinel on Oak Lane. She answered in a robe, hair loose, the vulnerability stripping her of the editor's polish. "I can't stop thinking about the letter," I said, stepping inside without invitation. The parlor smelled of books and beeswax, walls lined with shelves that sagged under volumes of Austen and Woolf, women who'd loved fiercely if only on pages. We sat by the fireplace, flames licking logs like tentative kisses. "Tell me everything," I urged. "From the beginning." Vivian exhaled, the story unfolding like a film reel in the firelight. 1962 senior year. Stolen moments in the library stacks, hands brushing over dog-eared poetry, drives to the quarry where they park under stars, sharing dreams of New York lofts and unjudging streets. "Ilara was fire," Vivian said, eyes distant. She saw the world in colors Monroe had drained to gray. But her father, old Mr. Thibodeau, caught us once by the river. Didn't say a word, just looked at her like she'd shamed the bloodline. Shame. The currency of small towns, traded in sidelong glances and lost invitations. Harlan Hayes, fresh from seminary, swept in like salvation. Steady job, church position, the promise of respectability. Mom said yes at 20, me in her arms by 22. Vivian fled to college but returned, the bond unbroken, sustained by coffee dates and coded glances at bridge club. But after Harlan died, I pressed, "Why not?" Vivian's laugh was bitter, hollow. "Because love like ours doesn't bloom in soil that's been salted. Your mother carried the guilt like a second skin, for you, for the life she'd built on half-truths. And me? I had my own ghosts. The family expected a match, a lock heir. When I refused, they cut me off. Editor at the Gazette was my consolation prize." Consolation. The word stung, a betrayal of sorts. Had Vivian settled too? We talked until the fire died to embers, the bourbon bottle emptying like confessions. As I left, she pressed another letter into my hand, from Mom, dated last year. "Viv, if I go first, tell Aubrey. Let her see we were human, not saints. Human. Flawed and fierce." Back home, sleep evaded me. I paced the kitchen, the envelope burning in my pocket. Dawn crept in, painting the walls gold, and with it came resolve. I'd sort Mom's things properly. Attic to basement, no stone unturned. The trunk under her bed yielded treasures. Pressed wildflowers from quarry picnics. A mixtape labeled for V midnight drives. A journal, leather-bound, entries spanning decades. The first page, 1963. Today I said yes to Harlan. Viv's face when I told her, "God, it haunts. But what choice? Father says it's God's will." Is it? My throat closed. Choice. The illusion we'd all chased. The town buzzed with Harvest Festival prep, banners fluttering like false flags of normalcy. I volunteered to help, needing the distraction, stringing lights along the fairgrounds with Lila May. "You holding up, Bree?" she asked, her hands flour-dusted from pie stall duty. I nodded, but inside the hook dug deeper. At the booth, Reverend Tillman cornered me, Bible in hand. "Your mother's in glory now with Harlan. No more earthly burdens." Burdens? Was that what he'd called her? Silence? I smiled tightly, excusing myself to the porta-johns, where I wept for the woman who'd borne mine in secrecy. That evening Vivian called. "Found something in the attic?" Her voice was light, but I heard the undercurrent. "A journal," I admitted. "It's everything." Pause. "Come over. We'll read it together." I did, the Victorian welcoming like an old lover. We sat in the study, journal open on the desk, pages whispering as we turned them. Entries of longing. Viv's laugh today at the diner felt like sunlight after storm. Doubts, Harlan's kind, but his touch is duty, not desire. And after my birth, Aubrey's eyes like Viv's. Piece of her in our daughter. How do I live with that gift and curse? Tears came then, mutual and unashamed. "She loved you enough to stay," I said, the words a bridge. Vivian nodded. "And you enough to build this life." The room felt smaller, charged with shared grief. As I rose to leave, our hands brushed. Accidental, electric. I pulled back, heart racing, the echo of their story stirring something dormant in me. Outside, Monroe slumbered, but inside, awakenings stirred. The journal became my compass, each entry a breadcrumb leading deeper into the labyrinth of Mom's hidden heart. I read it in stolen moments before dawn, coffee cooling untouched. Late nights when the house creaked like it mourned too. Vivian and I met twice more that week, our sessions evolving from dissection to dialogue, the study her sanctuary and mine by proxy. She wrote this after your baptism, Vivian said one evening, tracing a line with her finger. Little Aubrey in white lace, Harlan beaming. I smiled for the camera, but my thoughts were on V waiting in the pews, her eyes promising forever. Forever. The word mocked the fragility of their bond, clipped by conventions sharper than shears. Monroe's rhythm intruded, insistent as cicadas. The harvest festival opened with a bang, fireworks over the river, the air thick with fried dough and fermented fruit punch. I manned the craft booth, selling my sketches of local landmarks, the mill's silhouette against sunset, the church steeple piercing thunderheads. Folks bought them as souvenirs, cooing over that artistic touch from the city girl returned. Lila May sidled up, plate balanced with ribs. Heard you're spending time with Miss Locke. Sweet of you, Alara's old chum needs company now. Sweet. If only she knew the undercurrents, the way Vivian's presence stirred the air like a gathering storm. Dad's shadow loomed larger as I delved deeper. The journal painted him not as villain but vessel. A man of faith who loved Mom in his limited way, blind to the chasm. Harlan preaches love thy neighbor, but what of loving across lines drawn in dust? One entry gutted me from 1985, the year I turned 8. Aubrey asked why Viv can't come to Thanksgiving. Told her Viv's busy with work. Lie sits like lead. Harlan suspects nothing. His world's black and white. No room for our grays. Grays. The spectrum Mom navigated, her love for Vivian a secret hue she daubed in margins, never center stage. Vivian shared her own artifacts. A box of letters tied with faded ribbon. Mom's script filling pages like rivers. 1968. Viv, Atlanta's lights blind me but your absence aches deeper. Come home soon in 1972. Drove past your house tonight, saw the light in your window. Felt you there reading. Wish I could knock. The ache was palpable, a phantom limb of what-ifs. We'd meet at the old quarry, Vivian recounted, voice soft as dusk. Parked under the oaks, talking till stars wheeled overhead. No touches, not after that night by the river. Too dangerous. Dangerous. In Monroe, love wore hazards. Gossip that cost jobs, families that disowned, souls that splintered under judgment. My own life intruded like an uninvited guest. A call from Atlanta, my roommate Jess, her voice bubbly. Bree, that gallery owner's asking about your pieces. When you coming back? Back. To what? A studio apartment with views of traffic. Dates with Mark, the accountant who kissed like checking boxes. I'd always chalked my restlessness to city burnout, but now echoes of Mom's words reframed it. Kat Vong tu do. No, that was mine stirring now. I hung up, staring at a sketch I'd done last night. Two figures silhouetted against the Chattahoochee, hands almost touching. Inspired by them or warning of me. The town sensed the shift. Monroe's antennae attuned to deviation. At the grocery, Mrs. Hargrove cornered me in produce. Heard Vivian's been at your place. Good of you, but mind the company. Folks talk, after all, she's never settled. Never settled. Code for spinster for suspect. I gripped the cart wheels squeaking protest. Vivian's family, I said, sharper than intended. She blinked, retreating with a pat on my arm. Of course, dear. Just watching out. Watching out. The town's benevolence, laced with venom. That night, Vivian and I walked the river path. The journal tucked under my arm like a talisman. Moonlight silvered the water, turning ripples to mercury. She wanted more for you, Vivian said, gravel crunching underfoot. Told me once after your high school graduation, Aubrey won't carry my chains. She'll choose bold. Bold. I'd chosen escape to Atlanta, but half measures. A job that paid bills, relationships that filled calendars. We paused at the bench overlooking the bend, the one etched with E+V 63 eternal. Did you carve that? I asked. She smiled faintly. No. She did, before the almost runaway. I found it years later. Eternal. Etched in wood, eroded by time and tide. Confession spilled then, mine this time. Reading this. It's like seeing Mom for the first time. Not the saint, but the woman. And me? I'm scared I'll repeat it. Hide parts of myself because it's easier. Vivian stopped, turning to face me, her profile sharp against the night. You won't. You're her daughter, but with her fire untamed. Untamed. The word ignited something. A spark in the damp dark. We stood there, proximity humming, until a distant dog's bark shattered the spell. Back at her house over tea chamomile soothing as a lullaby, she handed me a key. To the study. Come when you need. No more hiding. Sleep came fitful, dreams weaving Mom and Vivian in gauzy dances, their laughter mingling with my own hesitant steps. Morning brought a package from Savannah. Aunt Ruth's condolences bundled with Dad's old sermons, yellowed pages thumping like judgments. I skimmed one. The wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus. Wages. Had Mom paid them in silence? Anger simmered, directed not at Dad, but the world that scripted his lines. I drove to the church unannounced, Reverend Tillman in his office amid stacks of hymnals. Aubrey, he greeted, rising. Seeking solace? Something like that. I placed the journal on his desk, open to a passage about doubt. Did you know? About Mom and Vivian. His face paled, then composed. Know what, child? Elara was devoted. Devoted to a lie. I cut in, voice steady. She loved a woman, Reverend. In this town, under your sermons. How does that square with your gospel? He leaned back, fingers steepled. Love is complex, Aubrey. Your father. He suspected toward the end. Forgave her as Christ would. Forgave. As if sin, not society. And you? Did you counsel her to confess or just pray it away? Silence stretched, his eyes evading. Some burdens are carried to the grave. For peace. Peace. The coward's bomb. I left, the door clicking shut like finality. Outside, the town square bustled. Kids on swings, vendors hawking apple butter. Normalcy, brittle as spun sugar. Vivian waited at the diner, our booth by the window, plates of biscuits steaming. How'd it go? She asked. I recounted, fork-stabbing eggs. He knew. Or guessed. And did nothing. Her nod was weary. That's Monroe. Silence is complicity. Complicity. The thread binding us all. That afternoon I sorted Dad's study. Files of tithing records, notes on parables. Tucked in a drawer a letter. His script to Mom undated. Elara, I see the way you look at her. If it's sin, then punish me for loving you still. But for Aubrey's sake, let it rest. My knees buckled. Love twisted into endurance. Fan boi not just of heart but honor, the code Dad lived by. He'd chosen blindness for family, just as Mom had chosen silence for peace. The cycle ironclad. Vivian came over that evening bearing pie, apple lattice crust like woven secrets. We ate in the backyard, fireflies winking approval. What now? She asked, plate balanced on knee. I confront it, I said. All of it. Starting with Aunt Ruth, she wrote to Dad once, warning him off Vivian. Ruth, the family enforcer, ensconced in her Savannah mansion, guardian of legacies. I called her then, phone pressed to ear like a confessor's booth. Aunt Ruth, it's Aubrey. About Mom. Her voice drawled honey over steel. Darling, so sorry for your loss. Elara was a lesbian, I interrupted. Silence, then a gasp. What nonsense. She was married to Harlan. And loved Vivian. You knew. Your letter to Dad proves it. Accusation hung, her defense crumbling. It was for the family's good. Thibodeau blood couldn't abide scandal. Family's good. The altar upon which Mom sacrificed. You're good, you mean. Keeping up appearances. Click. Disconnected. Rage ebbed to sorrow, Vivian's arm around my shoulders a steadying force. She'd be proud, she murmured. Proud. Of breaking the chain? Night deepened, stars pricking the velvet sky. We lingered on the porch, words tapering to comfortable quiet. For the first time Monroe felt less cage, more crossroads. Inside, the journal called, Next entry's promising more. A pregnancy revelation. Aubrey kicks like she's dancing to Viv's jazz records. Dancing. Toward wet dawn. The confrontation with Aunt Ruth rippled outward. Fault lines cracking the facade of family solidarity. Invitations dried up. No more Sunday suppers at Cousin Ellis's farm, where ham glazed with pineapple masked awkward silences. No calls from Uncle Wade in Macon, his annual check for the Hayes legacy now a ghost. Monroe noticed, of course. Whispers at the post office, sidelong glances at the Piggly Wiggly. Trouble in paradise? Tommy Jenkins quipped over coffee at the diner. His insurance pitch forgotten. I shrugged it off, but the isolation gnawed, a familiar echo of Mom's entries. Folks smile to my face, but I feel their eyes on my back. Viv says ignore hard when it's your blood. Vivian became anchor, our evenings a ritual. Her house, wine from her cellar. Pinot Noir, tart as truths, and the journal as scripture. We pored over 1990s pages, Mom's script tightening with midlife's vice. Aubrey's off to college soon. Blanta her choice. Pray she finds what I couldn't. Freedom without flight. Freedom. I'd chased it in design classes, late nights rendering cityscapes that promised anonymity. But now, reading her fears, I saw my own hesitations mirrored. The breakup with Mark last year. His bewilderment when I cited needing space. The sketches I hid, figures entwined in ways that blurred lines. Did Mom know about me? I asked Vivian one night, glass midway to lips. She paused, considering. She suspected. Said once. Our girl's got Alara's eyes, and her questions. Questions. They multiplied, pulling me toward Dad's unresolved letter. I revisited his study drawers, yielding more. A locked box, key taped beneath. Inside, photos, Mom and Vivian at 20, arms around each other at a sorority formal. Vivian's data prop in the background. A newspaper clipping, 1974. Locke heiress declines proposal from prominent attorney. With Mom's note, read between lines. Hearts already spoken. And a tape cassette, labeled for Harlan, listen alone. Heart pounding, I dusted off Dad's old player. They were filling the room like breath held too long. Dad's voice crackled forth. Steady as pulpit cadence but laced with tremor. Alara, if this is farewell, know I loved you true. The doctor says my heart's failing, fitting, for a man who's ignored his own beat. Vivian. I saw you two at the quarry last Easter. Didn't follow, but the truck's mud told tales. Go to her if you must. For Aubrey, I'll carry the story. Static, then Mom's response recorded over. Harlan, no. This is our life. For better or worse. Click. The weight crushed. Dad's offer of grace rejected for duty's yoke. Fan boi layered. Mom's to Vivian, Dad's unspoken to both. He died holding that silence, heart literal and figurative. Tears blurred the tape's label. Vivian arrived unbidden, sensing my text. Found Dad's tape. Come. We listened together, her hand on my shoulder steady. He knew all along, she whispered. And let her choose. Choose. The agency Mom wielded, or the chains she mistook for them. Why reject it? I demanded, voice raw. Fear, Vivian said simply. Of losing you, the church, the fragile peace. Peace. Again that bomb, now poison. The festival's aftermath brought clarity's edge. I walked the fairgrounds alone, trampled hay crunching underfoot, echoes of laughter lingering. A vendor packed up, his stall of handmade quilts, patterns of stars and vines, symbols of endurance. One caught my eye. Interlocking rings in indigo, faded but fierce. Family heirloom, he said. Hide stories in stitches. Stories. Like Mom's life, quilted from fragments. I bought it, draping it over the porch swing that night. Vivian joining me with cocoa spiked for courage. Talk turned to legacies. What do we owe the dead? I mused, steam curling. Truth, she replied. Alara wanted that for you. Truth. I pulled out my phone, dialing Jess in Atlanta. I'm staying longer. Processing. Her pause held questions, but support followed. Whatever you need, Bree. Galleries waiting. Waiting. Unlike Monroe's judgments, swift as summer storms. But storms brewed here too. Reverend Tillman called a pastoral visit, arriving with lemon bars and scripture. Aubrey rumors swirl about Alara Vivian. Unbecoming. Unbecoming. The word ignited. Unbecoming of what? A town built on half-lies. He shifted, uncomfortable. Your father would want harmony. Dad knew, I countered, tape transcribed on the table. His eyes widened. Harlan. Suspected. But Grace covers. Grace. Selective, it seemed. He left chastened, the encounter fueling resolve. I organized a reading. At Vivian's small circle, me, her, Lila May, invited on whim, her curiosity piqued. Lila arrived wary, pie in hand. This about Alara's friendship? Blunt but honest. We shared excerpts, voices overlapping like harmony. Mom's words on page. Love isn't sin, hiding it is. Lila's face softened. My sister. Same secret. Atlanta 2005. Family disowned. Shared wounds bridged us, the room warming. Yet tension coiled. Aunt Ruth's silence broke with a letter, postmarked Savannah. Aubrey, your accusations wound. Alara chose her path, honor over whim. Don't tarnish her memory. Tarnish. As if love soiled. I drafted reply, pen slashing. Honor without heart is hollow. Mom's memory shines in truth. Unsent for now. Vivian advised patience. Wounds fester in haste. Dreams intensified. Mom at the mill beckoning. Vivian young reaching. Woke sweat damp, quilt tangled. Dawn run along the river. Breath sinking with lap of water. Quarry loomed. Oak sentinel. I climbed down, feet slipping on shale to the water's edge. Skip stones, each plunk a release. E+V. Still there, defiant. Back home, a package. From Vivian, address Mom's 1960s silk. Emerald as envy. Wear it to the remembrance service. Note read. Service for Mom, church neutral at the community hall. I slipped it on, fabric whispering against skin. Mom scent faint. Mirror reflected her. Same shoulders, same set jaw. Bold sheet written. I would be. The hall filled, townies kin, Vivian in corner, eyes proud. I spoke, journal in hand. Mom taught resilience. Loved deeply, quietly. Let's honor that. Not with silence but stories. Murmurs, then applause, Lila's nod fierce. After Vivian pulled me aside. You did it. Heat rose, grief, gratitude, something unnamed. We did. Night fell, quilt on swing, a swang. What's next? She asked. Unraveling, I said. Starting with you. Her laugh light. Careful, threads run deep, deep. To hearts uncharted. Unraveling accelerated. Threads pulling taut toward inevitable snap. The remembrance service's afterglow faded into scrutiny's glare. Church elders avoiding my gaze at the bank. Tommy Jenkins's texts laced with concern. Heard wild tales, Bree. Need to talk? Wild tales. Monroe's euphemism for disruption. I ignored them, diving deeper into the journal's later years, where Mom's voice grew resolute, edged with defiance. 2005. Aubrey's in Atlanta thriving. Viv and I at the diner laughed like girls. Harlan's gone 2 years. Guilt eases, but society's eye never blinks. Never blinks. The panopticon of small-town life, where privacy was luxury for the Locks, not hazes. Vivian and I escalated our explorations, not just pages but places. We drove to the quarry one crisp afternoon. Truck bumping over rutted roads. Autumn leaves carpeting the path like confetti from a cancelled parade. The water gleamed unchanged, a mirror to skies bruised with clouds. This is where it started, she said, spreading a blanket on shale. Picnic unpacked. Cheese, crackers, the bourbon we'd shared that first night. We ate in companionable quiet, then talked about the almost runaway, the mill at midnight, Mom's note clutched in trembling hand. I waited, Vivian confessed, voice low. 2 hours, heart hammering. Then headlights, not hers, your grandfather's. He dragged her home, sermon on damnation. Damnation. The scare tactic that stuck, rooting her to Harlan's pew. My anger crested then, hot as quarry steam. He stole her life. Vivian's hand on mine cooling. No. Fear did. But she reclaimed pieces in letters in us. The pronoun shifted, inclusive now, drawing me into their tapestry. I pulled back, not ready, but the pull lingered. A tide's inexorable drag. Back in town, conflict brewed familial. Uncle Wade arrived unannounced. Pickup laden with gifts. Hunting rifles Dad cherished, now mine by default. Tall and taciturn with Wade's drawl that masked machismo. He clapped my shoulder too hard. Heard your stirring pots, niece. About Alara and that Locke woman. Stirring pots. Culinary cover for upheaval. We sat on the porch, rifles propped like accusations. Truth isn't stirring, I said. It's exhuming. He snorted, lighting a cigar, smoke wreathing his scowl. Truth? Your daddy built this family on respect. Alara played her part. Don't drag her through mud for some modern nonsense. Nonsense. The dismissal ignited. Modern? This was 1963, Uncle. Before Stonewall, before anything. She hid to protect us from men like you. His face reddened, cigar ash scattering. Men like me keep order. Church family, that's the backbone. Vivian's a fine woman but unnatural. Your daddy knew, swallowed it for peace. Swallowed. Like bile. And you? Did you warn him? Like Aunt Ruth. Silence, damning. He rose, rifles untouched. Burn that journal, Aubrey. For her sake. He left, tires spitting gravel, leaving me seething. Vivian found me pacing the kitchen. Tea kettle shrilling forgotten. Wait, she guessed. I nodded, pouring scalding water, steam veiling tears. He wants erasure. Her arms encircled, brief but bolstering. Then we amplify. Amplify. The notion spark, share more not less. I contacted the Gazette, Vivian's domain, proposing an op-ed. Unveiling Alara Hayes. A life in shadows. She hesitated. Editor's caution warring with heart. It'll cost jobs, friends. Cost. The ledger of courage. Worth it, I insisted. For her. Drafting consumed nights, words flowing like Chattahoochee spring flood. I wove journal excerpts with memories. Mom's quiet strength at school plays, her fierce defense of underdogs. The subtext of her smiles at Vivian's visits. Submitted, then waited, tension coiling. Town pulse quickened. Lila Mae distanced, her texts curt. Tommy's calls unanswered. Isolation deepened, but so did bond with Vivian. Dinners at her table, records spinning Billie Holiday's blues, harmonies of hidden heartaches. The piece dropped Friday, front page. Headline stark, echoes of a silent love. Remembering Alara Hayes. Monroe awoke to it, papers clutched like indictments at breakfast counters. By noon my phone rang ceaseless, support from unexpected quarters. Jess in Atlanta, proud as hell, a cousin in Oregon. Wish I'd known. But backlash crashed. Reverend Tillman's homily that Sunday, veiled thunder on perversion's eroding foundation. Aunt Ruth's email disgrace. Don't darken our door. Uncle Wade's voicemail. You've shamed us all. Vivian weathered her own storm. Gazette board summoning, whispers of resignation. She faced them chin high. Truth's our mandate. Alara's story deserves ink. They relented, barely, but the rift lingered. That night we celebrated survival at the Victorian. Champagne fizzing like defiance. To Alara we toasted. Glasses clinked, eyes locking, mine on hers charged. And to bold choices, I added. Bold. The word bridged, her fingers brushing mine deliberate now. But Chow Treo loomed, betrayal's blade unsheathed. A package arrived, anonymous. Dad's Bible, hollowed, containing letters, not Mom's but Vivian's to her, photocopied, annotated in red. Abomination. Sodom's sin. Handwriting familiar, Uncle Wade's. Enclosed note. Found these in Harlan's effects. For your truth. Burn or be buried. Buried. Threat veiled as caution. Rage blinded. I drove to his farm, dusk falling like judgment. He met me on the porch, shotgun casual across knees, not loaded but symbol. Knew you'd come. You stole them, I accused, letters thrust forward. Dad's things private. His laugh gravel. Private? This filth? Harlan hid it for her sake. I kept it for the family's. Family. His altar, blood oath. You betrayed her, all of you. He rose looming. Betrayed? I protected. From scandal, from hell. Hell. His construct. Hell was her silence, forced by cowards like you. Words escalated, voices rising with cricket's chorus. Leave Aubrey. Or I'll make you. Make. The line crossed. I left, trembling, letters clutched. At Vivian's collapse. Sobs on her shoulder, her embrace unyielding. He won't win, she vowed. But doubt crept. Had I unleashed more pain than healing? Sleep evaded, nightmares of mills aflame, loves consumed. Dawn brought clarity. Confrontations cost, but retreats higher. I called Lila. Need allies. She came, hesitant but present. Saw the peace. Brave. Brave. Collective now. We planned a town talk, neutral ground, stories shared. Invitation broad, voices of Monroe. Hidden histories. Prep unified, Vivian's living room hub. Chairs arranged, coffee brewing. Attendees trickled, curious converts, critics. Reverend Tillman declined. Uncle Wade's absence roared. I opened. Mom's story isn't anomaly, it's echo. Voices rose. Lila's sister's tale. An elder's confession of 1950s flight. Vivian closed. Love endures, unspoken or not. Applause tentative then thunderous. After Vivian and I lingered, room emptying. You were magnificent, she said. Magnificent. Heat flushed, proximity intoxicating. Our hands met, intentional, sparks arcing. Kiss hovered, unspoken permission. Then doorbell. Jess, surprise visit. Thought you needed backup. Intrusion, timing cruel. We parted, charged air dissipating. But seed planted, roots delving. The town talk's momentum faltered under backlash's weight. Fractures widening into chasms. Letters to the Gazette poured in, supportive ink mingling with vitriol. Elara Hayes, saint or sinner? One headline sneered. Businesses shied. My sketches returned unsold, tagged inappropriate. Lila May confessed over hurried lunch. Ellis wants distance, kids asking questions. Questions. The innocents inheriting thorns. Vivian faced bored again. Resignation tendered but retracted under petition from staff. For Elara, they said. But strain etched her, lines deepening, sleep evading as it did mine. Betrayal's aftershocks quaked personal. Uncle Wade's threat loomed, letters now with me but fear gnawed. What else lurked in Dad's shadows? I ransacked his study anew, finding a will, codicil hidden, bequeathing personal effects to Wade, including sensitive documents. Sensitive. Evasion's cloak. Confrontation redux. His farm at noon, sun baking fields to gold. He smirked from the barn, pitchfork in hand. Back for more. The codicil, I demanded. What else did Dad hide? Laughter mocking. Enough to bury your legacy. Harlan knew his duty, protected the name. Protected. From truth's glare. You leaked the letters. To hurt, not help. His shrug, casual cruelty. Warned you. Burn or bury. Bury. The ultimatum crystallized rage. Publish them, I challenged. Let Monroe see the hate you hoard. Fork dropped, eyes narrowing. You think you're her? Elara folded. You will too. Folded. Mom's choice, now mine? I left, resolve hardening. No. Vivian absorbed the tale, pacing her study. He's bluffing but dangerous. Dangerous. The word circled, stirring paranoia. That night, alone, journal's final entries called 2024, Mom's hand shaky. Cancer whispers but Viv's voice roars louder. Told her tonight, hold me at the end. Aubrey, if you read this, live loud. Love without ledger. Loud. Ledger. Her mantra, my map. Tears-soaked pages, resolve birthing action. Digitize letters, anonymize, share online blog. Echoes unsilenced. Viral potential in Atlanta networks. Launch hit like lightning. Shares from Jess's art circle, comments flooding. Thank you for this light. But Monroe's recoil swift. Reverend Tillman's presser. Misguided revisionism harms our youth. Youth. My sketches, once whimsy, now scrutinized. A client cancelled, citing personal conflicts. Isolation peaked. Vivian, my sole harbor. Our evenings deepened. Not just stories but silences pregnant with possibility. One rain-lashed night, power out, candles guttering, talk turned intimate. What if we'd run? She mused, wine glass cradled. New York bookshop unjudged. Unjudged. Fantasy's lure. My hand found hers, deliberate. We can still choose. Her eyes searched, vulnerable. Kiss came soft, tentative, lips brushing like long withheld breath. World narrowed. Taste of Merlot, her sigh mingling with thunder. Passion surged, years compressed. Hands exploring with reverence, bodies mapping familiar terrains anew. Clothes shed like old skins, skin to skin on the study rug, firelight dancing. Ecstasy crested, raw and redemptive. Love not borrowed but born. Dawn intruded, tangled limbs testament. Guilt flickered, mom's shadow but joy overrode. This isn't betrayal, Vivian murmured, fingers tracing my jaw. It's continuation. Continuation. Her legacy woven forward. Breakfast followed, mundane miracle. Eggs scrambled, coffee black. But idol shattered, call from hospital admin. Ms. Hayes? Issue with the Lara's records. Records. Curiosity piqued, I drove, Vivian insisting company. Admin's office sterile, files proffered. Death certificate but addendum nurse's note. Patient requested, Vivian lock present at end. Family notified? Notified. Omission deliberate? Deeper dig. Mom's chart, marginalia in her script. Tell Aubrey Viv's my heart. Forgive the silence. Heart. The revelation pierced mom's final act. Hand in hand, not whim but will. Tears welled, Vivian's squeeze anchoring. Return brought ambush. Wade's truck blocking drive, Aunt Ruth beside, imperious in pearls. Family meeting, he barked. Inside accusations flew. Your blog slander. Harlan's name dragged. Slander. Truth's twin. Mom's words, not mine. I countered, letters on table. Ruth's gasp. How dare? Dare honor her. Vivian interjected, voice steel. Alara chose love. You chose fear. Fear. The room crackled, Wade lunging for papers. Scuffle ensued, me shoving, him stumbling, Ruth shrieking. Chaos peaked. His fist raised, then frozen by Vivian's glare. Enough. Or face charges. He backed down, Ruth trailing, venom spat. You're dead to us. Dead. Severed. Door slammed, silence deafening. Collapse followed, sobs racking, Vivian's arms haven. Lost them, I choked. Gain truth, she countered. Truth. Costly coin. Town fractured further. Allies emerged, Lila's email. Standing with you. Ellis too. But losses mounted. Church membership revoked. For cause. Reverend's visit contrite. Harlan confessed to me, end days. Wanted absolution for all. All. Including himself. Forgiveness offered, tentative. Join us in healing. Healing. Possible. Tanvio crested that week. Blog hacked, posts erased, Wade's doing trace digital. Despair drowned. I fled to quarry, watermocking calm. Vivian found me hours later, soaked and shivering. Can't fight alone, she said, blanket wrapping. Alone. The terror. Then don't. Vow exchanged, rings unspoken. Rebuild began small. Repost stories, community forum online. Responses poured, national now, NYT query. Southern secret. A daughter's discovery. Exposure thrilled, terrified. Interview scheduled, Atlanta neutral. Prep with Vivian. Words honed, hearts bared. Departure eve, lovemaking fierce. Claim and comfort. Come back, she whispered. Always. Atlanta buzzed, contrast stark. Skyline indifferent, Jess hugging fierce. Interview flowed, tears authentic. Mom's silence was survival. Mine's amplification. Published, wave-crested, support surged, but Monroe's backlash peaked. Wade's lawsuit threat, defamation suit. Legal aid from allies, but stress fractured sleep. Nightmares of graves unshared. Return brought reckoning. Wade's farm, sheriff present. Settle, he growled. Retract. No, I refused. Truth stands. Standoff dissolved in mediation, retractions partial, peace fragile. Victory Pyrrhic, exhaustion bone deep. Vivian waited, dinner simmering. Survived. Embrace then fracture. Her confession quiet. Board's final, resign or retract. Resign. Her anchor lost. Choose us, I urged. Tears mutual. I am. Resignation tendered. Future adrift. Tanvio complete. Mirrors reflected hollow eyes. Love's bloom wilted under war. But ember glowed, mom's words. Live loud. Loud. We try. The resignation's echo faded into tentative rebirth. Monroe's winter wrapping the town in hush. Frost etching windows like fragile veils over fresh starts. Vivian's departure from the Gazette was dignified. Farewell column, ink and heart. Lessons from a lifetime weaving mom's story with grace. No names but implications clear. Responses mixed. Bouquets from Lila, silence from kin. We moved her things to my house. Elm Street's clapboard now shared sanctuary. Her books mingling with mom's journals on shelves. A library of lives intersected. Legal clouds lifted slowly. Wade's suit dismissed, lack of merit, but bridges charred. Aunt Ruth's final missive handwritten. Alara would weep this division. Weep, perhaps, but smile too at freedom's dawn. I wrote back once she'd weep the cage more. Unanswered but closure's whisper. My art flourished in fracture's fertile ground. Series Southern Veils, sketches of silhouettes. Hands clasped, figures fleeing shadows. Sold in Atlanta galleries. Proceeds to local LGBTQ youth fund. Jess curated, her pride infectious. You're channeling her fire. Fire. Mom's, now mine, tempered with Vivian's steady flame. Our love deepened unhurried. Mornings tangled in quilts. Coffee shared over crosswords. Evenings walks by the river. Hands linked open, fireflies bearing witness. Town thawed unevenly. Lila hosted dinner. Ellis awkward but present. Kids wide-eyed at Aunt Bree's stories. Talk skirted edges but seeds planted. Her niece, questioning, found space. Reverend Tillman reached out, coffee at the diner. Healing starts with listening. Listening. We did. His admissions of seminary doubts, parallels drawn. No conversion but accord. Joint service planned, remembrance and renewal. Mom's legacy centerpiece. Spring unfurled. Azaleas blooming defiant along fences. We scattered mom's ashes at the quarry. Private right, Vivian reciting Whitman. I celebrate myself and sing myself. Song. Her silenced aria now chorus. Water absorbed her. Ripples spreading like influence. Back home garden planted. Lilies for Vivian, wildflowers for mom. Untamed sprawl. National ripple peaked. NYT feature expanded to book pitch. Agent enthusiastic. Your voice, raw redemptive. Writing began, journal foundation, Vivian editor in spirit. Chapters flowed. Shadows and sunlight, exploring not just mom's secret, but society's scaffold. Class cleaving Monroe's haves from have-nots, gender's rigid rails, orientation's outlawed orbit. Betrayals unpacked. Dad's quiet complicity, kin's fearful gatekeeping, my own early blindness. Tupten threaded. Mom's hand in Vivian's, permission granted. Publication loomed but life layered. A trip to Vermont, Vivian's whim. Green mountains, lakes like mirrors, escape from South's steamy grasp. Cabin rented. Days hiking trails where birches whispered freedoms. Nights, lovemaking under stars, bodies attuned like instruments long tuned. This is the run we never took, she said, head on my chest. Run. No walk, deliberate. Return brought bloom. Festival redux, my booth thriving. Sketches signed by Alara's daughter. Tommy approached, contrite. Misjudged. Coffee sometime. Sometime. Bridge half mended. Lila's news. Sister visiting, stories swapped. Threads reweaving, tapestry richer for tears. Climax revisited. Not destruction but distillation. Wade's olive branch. Letter terse. Read your book draft, sent anonymous. Harland approved the heart. Heart. Redemption's hesitant hand. We met neutral, River Park, benches scarred by time. Sorry, he grunted, eyes down. Fear's a hellhound. Hellhound. Chased us all. Forgive. Not yet but nod. Start with listening. Listening. The revolution. Book released autumn. Launch in Atlanta, crowd electric, Vivian at side. Ring glinting new. Simple gold, etched E+V plus a eternal. Vows whispered pre-dawn, quarry altar. In shadows and sun. Sunday rising now. Monroe's reception mixed. Church ladies buying copies for discussion. Reverend sermon weaving grace with grit. Aunt Ruth attended signing, Savannah Drive arduous. For Alara. Hug exchanged, brittle but binding. Legacy reclaimed. Final journal entry, mom's last. If Aubrey holds this, no loved one in pieces. Be whole. Whole. We were Vivian and I, mornings merged, evenings entwined. Art flowing, advocacy budding. Youth center-funded talks in schools on hidden histories. Society's mouthwan persisted, headlines of battles afar. But here in Monroe's moss-draped heart, change rooted. Dusk one evening, porch swing creaking, Vivian's head on shoulder. What now? Echo of queries passed. Live loud, I murmured. Loud. Laughter rose, fireflies dancing approval. Mom's hand extended through time held in hours. Free. Information's wake. Love's not ledger-balanced but poured messy mending. In America's fractured quilt, threads of forbidden weave strongest, humanizing the divide. We choose silence or song. Mom chose both, we choose song.